All right, we are live. Rock and roll. Oh, looks like BFG Neil's coming in, and yeah, let's see if the magic works. What's up, dog? How you doing? You're gonna take a hot second to
Well, it's going to take me a second, sorry.
yeah, take time, man. Take time. I'll just read off the comments. Hector, good to see you. Network Joe, we want Bobby to come on again. Okay, Bobby. Everybody wants Bobby back. All right, Bobby. Well, you got the link, dude. It's the same link every time, so there's a fair amount of trust that I extend to guests of the show. But you can always jump on if you want. If I really don't want to talk to you, I will just deny it. Or if we have too many people, I won't bring you on. But yeah, it's there if you want it, dog. What's up, Gregory? Good to see you. All right, Neil, are you still muted? Or you're
Good, all good.
okay? Cool. Well, we got what is it? A fucking boatload of big news this week, and I think we're through the first minute, so I can say that. Nope, we didn't make it past a minute. So now this now this show is officially not for children. Okay, but we do have a boatload of news. Today is the last day of March 31st, 2023. What do you want to do? We got Amazon Sidewalk, we got dual mining, and we got the Aussie rollback. What do you want to start with, dude?
Anything? Whatever you
Okay,
think. I think the sidewalk's the biggest piece, isn't it?
let's kick the well. Not for the Australians. Come on.
Wow. Yeah.
They're the only important people as far as they're concerned. What's up, Leo? Let's see. So let's do Amazon Sidewalk. Talk me through what the news was and what the implication is.
Yeah, so Amazon Sidewalk has come out of stealth and released a location map of everywhere they got coverage. They've got a semi LoRaWAN solution. It's like 20% LoRaWAN. The rest is like custom solutions, and the transaction, the sending and receiving is different. So the big point about that network is it's opt out. So for the last few generations of devices, that service is installed and running unless you opt out.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
but
Yep.
it's not like Helium in the sense we run 8 channel gateways. These are single channel gateways, and then they don't quite do LoRa. I think they use some LoRa, but it's mostly proprietary on top. So it's just cool having another network validate that LoRaWAN's the right choice and LoRa is the right technology to use for long range low power devices.
Okay. How does
And
it?
that's
How
what
does it? How does it validate that? Walk me through that.
well, Amazon has basically said LoRa is the right technology to use.
Okay. Right on.
You
Thank
know,
you.
and then they,
Let's
and
spell it
then they
out clearly.
switched on a network that, yeah, they switched on a network that's got 90% US coverage. So that's not good for everything, but definitely in the home where Wi-Fi was potentially a choice before, this just means that you can run battery operated devices really well. I don't think major businesses will use it, but generally in the home, it warms people up to this idea that they can install these devices, connect them to their network, and really get exposed to LoRaWAN, and that leads on to Helium, right?
Yeah, and pretty clearly the next move for Helium with their giant war chest is they're going to buy Amazon. So you heard it here first on State of the Network. Helium is buying Amazon. Should be closed out on that deal next Friday.
It's in the can.
Yeah, it's in the can. Um, so let's see. There's a couple cool things in there, Neil. Number one, I think, is the usual FUD of anything new. Is people are really scared that Amazon is going to crush Helium. Is what I've been seeing on the Twitterverse. And it
Mm.
sounds like, from your perspective, that's not really something you're super worried about.
No, I mean the way I look at it is this: look, if I was a business and I wanted to use connectivity on a network, would I prefer one that is single channel gateways on devices like Ring doorbells, or would I prefer one where the network's been built with the principle the better your place, the better your earnings are?
Right.
Like I could probably on the estate that I live on, probably find 6 or 7 Ring doorbells, but
Okay.
with one hotspot, I cover 10, 15 miles.
Right.
So that the quality of the network is just unbelievably better. But Amazon has said this is the right one to do. You know, so
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it. I'm not scared of it. It's just it opens up so many doors. Like I'll say from a trackpad point of view, the people we've been working with, their inboxes have exploded from them wanting to try Helium because they've seen the LoRaWAN piece with Sidewalk.
Ah, okay. So it's a super good thing for Helium.
Yeah, it's validation and it's opening doors to get people to look at that. It's a great advertisement. That's the way I see it.
Love it, dude. And for those of us not in the UK, an estate is what would we call it, like a development or neighborhood?
Uh,
Like it's not
yeah,
Neil's
suburbs.
castle.
It's like a suburbs, it's like
Yeah.
a little
I'm just
group
imagining
of
like Neil
housing
walking
block.
outside and drinking coffee, watching the herd
It's
of
not my
deer.
estate, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love that. That would be amazing. Maybe one day, but
Let's get there. Let's get you there, dude. We gotta have some more people buying the founders track pack for that to happen.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's the
Oh,
let's
and
see.
the
Good.
other big one Travis has just said as well. That's a massive one. Is that you surrender all your data to Amazon as well.
That's what I want to
So
hit next. Is this kind of
yeah,
dual thing of opt out and privacy? So let's talk through
mm,
kind of the downside of Amazon. There is that upside is it's ultra easy. It's so easy you actually don't need to do anything. Downside with Amazon is that they eat your privacy.
eat it. They could just do anything they like with it. They could start serving you adverts based on what you're doing and what you're sensing.
Yeah.
That's the scary part about it. And then you think that that data is valuable for someone that's building a profile for advertising and marketing, and they can use that data to target you specifically.
Yep. Yep. And I'm seeing Travis in there. Ring is giving your data to law enforcement without
Mm.
warrants. That's a big U.S. thing here. Um, and I look at that like as I don't know. I'm more on the side of like, hey, if you're a crooked fuck, maybe it should be easier to stitch you up. But obviously that impinges on people's freedom.
Mm.
All right, Bobby's nuts. Okay, so there's the privacy issue. So just so you know that, and then how does that compare, Neil, for folks who don't know, with Helium, as far as is Helium selling our data?
Every LoRaWAN transaction over the air, every data transmission is encrypted, so they just don't know what the data is. They know that it's happened, but they don't know what it is.
I'm so glad one of us knows what's going on. I just figure all this stuff is going to be awesome and have a lot of trust. Okay, let's see. Jay has this other thing that I was trying to articulate and I didn't do a good job of it. Amazon user bandwidth, limited range, lacks privacy. Yeah, this was the thing. I think you covered most of this, Neil. But the other piece here is, or an other piece is that with the Helium hotspot, the Helium gateway on your house, you get payments for providing service, and Amazon doesn't pay you at all. And in fact,
Oh.
you pay you pay to buy the thing for Ring, as far as I know. I don't
Mm.
know if there's an ongoing subscription with Ring or not. I don't have one.
I don't know what either.
Yeah, but I think that
I
was
think
like
there is.
the fundamental piece, and that's what allowed Helium to get so big. Is that by in return, in exchange for providing a service, you earn tokens. I don't think Amazon will do that. It'd probably be pretty smart of them if they did. If they started to like credits on Amazon.com for providing your data, that would be a
Well, I
killer app for
think
them.
that's their kind of like, this is why they justify it. You could use it for free, but they're
Right.
selling your bandwidth for free.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Yep. So I think that's the privacy and opt out or opt in thing. And then the last thing is, explain to me, Neil. I know it makes a ton of sense to you. Is single channel gateways versus 8 channel gateways? Like, what are the functional implications or
Uh,
differences there?
I wouldn't say I understand it fully, but
Okay.
the availability of that gateway to serve traffic is very limited when it's only got one channel. The more channels you have, the more concurrent uplinks can be heard and dealt with. If that one channel's in use when you go to broadcast into it, it just won't be heard. So that gateway is very limited in the amount of sensors it can handle.
Got it. And that actually probably doesn't make any difference now when there aren't that many sensors out there in the wild.
Exactly.
But 2 to 5 to 5, even a year down the road. I mean, from what we talked about, I think was it last week?
Yep.
Or
Mad, isn't
I
it?
think you put that out there that you talked to one customer that had a boatload
Mhm.
of sensor requirements. Is like we may see this change in a year. That right now single channel versus 8 channel doesn't matter, but 12 months from now it might be like, oh well, you need at least 3 or 4 channels to be functional, and Helium will have
Yep.
8. So
Exactly. And it just sets us up for the future, just having a really, really strong network that can handle a lot of devices. And I think a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with the IoT POC working group, to make sure that we start changing to this, and mobile are doing it at the same time. We want to start rewarding for useful coverage, not all coverage.
right,
And when we do that, we just build a stupidly strong network that the quality is just immense, that there's no other choices because it's that good. And I think in the future that we might, need to start thinking about that, having more channel gateways. They do sell 64 channel gateways. Not that we need them, but
I
having
don't
the
see how I'm
option down
living
the
without
line.
one. Yeah, maybe I need to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
128? Is there a 512? Like, when do we get to the terabyte
But
channel gateways?
it's interesting. One of the conversations the other day, and I know we'll get to this later with the Australians, is to have a proper dual plan. They actually need 16 channels. So the ability to upgrade something like that, so it works like that, is really important.
Okay. Well, do you want to do the Aussie news next, or do you want to do dual mining? Like, I'm eager to talk about all this shit. So, what?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about the Aussie stuff if you want.
Yeah, so the Australians, which for those of you who don't know, is a small country at the bottom of the earth. Very loud, very strident people. There's about 16 people in the entire country, but they yell loud enough for about 16 million. And they had a problem early on in that they bought a bunch of miners without a defined plan?
No, it was on AE915.
It was on AU915, and then there's a whole series of fuckery that they've made very clear that they didn't like. And it seems that was actually a problem as well. And then they've gone back and forth with the Helium Foundation. And the last I checked, it seemed like it was on the path to getting sorted out, and everyone was reasonably happy. But you told me 2 minutes before we came on, you're like, "Hey, dude, there's some pretty good news." So tell me what the news is for the Australians.
Yeah, kind of, Amir and Mad Ninja, sorry, Mark, isn't it? Mark. I just don't by the screen name sometimes.
Yeah.
I got on a call with Leo and, kind of discuss the situation. And the problem that they have is that no one dislikes 923 and no one dislikes AU915, but neither work right now. So if you buy an AU915 device, it'll be hard coded to use a band that won't allow it to join. So you can't use AU915,
Okay.
and then AU923 is limited in how much power it can do. So you can't get the distances in a country where distance is so important.
Right.
So it's like an implementation of both that's not really good for either. So there was a conversation, and kind of everyone agreed that this should really be rolled back and AU923 fixed properly in a full implementation plan done, so these issues don't pop up. And it's not that a lot of this goes down to the manufacturers, right? But where they aren't a big market right now, they can't just ask them for 100 devices on AU923 subband 6. Like, it has to just work out the box for them to even get a chance to start a network over there. That's the problem that they're having, that they just can't get going. So this rollback allows them to move forward, and it's going to go to vote, and it only matters if you're Australian, because if you've got hotspots asserted in Australia, so
Yep.
you can vote, and they should get a rollback. I think everyone in the country generally wants it. So
Okay. So I'll actually pause needling the Australians for a while. I like to fuck with you guys, mostly because you can handle it. Most of you can. But I think this is an important point. Let me make sure I understand it. Everyone in the network can vote on this, not just Australians, right? It's not limited to if you have Australian hotspots. There's no way to do that.
Well,
So
everyone can vote for it, but they're only going to count the ones where the votes come from a wallet with hotspots in Australia.
Oh, really? Okay, so it doesn't, like, my vote doesn't count on that because I don't have any hotspots in Australia.
Yeah, and there's some urgency to it as well, because once we move to Solana, they can't do that pick, so it only matters to Australians. So there's an urgency to get this HIP out, but there's so many HIPs waiting that they've had trouble pushing it through. Like, they've had this HIP in for, I don't know, I think it's a week or 2 weeks. But that call last night, it's literally said, yeah, let's just get it done. Let's get it done as soon as we can, and get a working plan out there for the Australians.
Okay. I like that. I mean, not that my vote counts at all, but I think that's interesting, or that's important for folks to know. Let's see. And I'm seeing all these, of course, Joe at _pp'H is rolling it.
Rollback.
Yeah. And then I got the Aussie, oi, from Jay. Let's see. Leo had written me a while ago with what's the HIP number? I want to make sure everyone gets to see it, and the Aussies feel, what is it, seen right now? Sorry, I didn't have this one written down.
It's only in the PR stage, so it's you can go to the Helium HIP repo and then look in the pool section.
I'll drop this link. It's like, I'll drop the link in the chat. Cool. They aren't doing a HIP anymore. They're looking at rolling back without. All right.
Yeah, I think the basics of what's in that HIP is just going to go to vote, and they're just going to go through it, to basically roll back plan.
Okay. Cool. Well, at the end of the day, anything that makes the network healthier and keeps folks, not only feeling like they have a voice in shaping this network, but actually having a voice in shaping this network, I'm in support of that. So as much as I give the Australian shit, if this is good for you guys and doesn't hurt anyone else, I'm all about that. That's cool.
And now they just have to put a ton of devices on to prove that all of this is worth it. We have to see that DC burn go up in Australia ridiculously, right?
Yeah, and that's gonna be tough because I mean, as much as I give them shit, 16 people. I think there's more people in Los Angeles than there are in Australia, and if that's not true, that's pretty close to true. So it's gonna be tough for them to get enough DC burn. The upside is they've got a lot of ability because they got such a big country and kind of have like Lorwyn is almost built for that kind of country where it's giant distances. Yeah, maybe it works really well for them. I hope it does. And if I get a chance to go down there and visit them and put in some sensors and hang out with gateways and high five all those guys, I totally will.
Exactly. I'm working with an Australian company that's going to use some nanotags basically and some other sensors as well. Cool. So I'm just waiting for an invite to go over there. You know.
All right. Well, maybe we'll go together.
I'm the only person that can install that gateway for you. I have to do it. You know.
Yeah.
That kind of excuse.
Clearly, no. I'm the same for a couple other countries as well. Although the last time I went to Australia, I was thrown in the drunk tank overnight. I like to say jail, but it was just the drunk tank. I just got a fight. So I got fond memories of Australia.
So 2 seconds.
Yep. Oh, Neil's got something going on. Let's see. Let me catch up on the chat while Neil's out handling his dog. Okay, they're not doing hip anymore. I see that. One thing that stinks right now is the first time we're not following Bitcoin growth. Bobby, I don't think that's a big deal. Lee, smash the like, please. You know, I never asked to smash the like, but I guess that is the right thing to do. So what do you say, like and subscribe? Blech. Go ahead and do that if you're game for it. And then hand pink waving from Michael Baders. What's going on, Michael? Let's see. Reminder, today's the last day to sign up for the first wave of Helium Mobile Beta. Dude, I got that email, Jay. I think I accidentally deleted it, so I should probably go back and find it. Is there a link to do that? That you know of, and if there is, drop it into the chat. Usually the video or one of the two is like a couple seconds behind. So I'll see if I can find that email, or if any of you guys have that email and have that link, drop it in here, and we'll see what we can do. Yeah, right on. Thanks, guys. Like and subscribe. Let's see. Oh, Neil got called. There he's coming back in. Stand by. There we go. You're back. Cool.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, I was just begging for likes and subscribers. Laughing. Max and I are doing this deep in space, and at the end of everyone, he's like, "Dude, you got to tell people to like and subscribe." And I'm always just like, "Yeah, it's so fucking gross to ask for that shit," but it seems like the right thing to do. So.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. The last piece of big news that I've got, and then we can just shoot the shit after that, is this dual mining thing. I haven't paid attention because I've been on this road trip with my dad. I just got back late last night. I haven't paid much attention to what's going on with it, but apparently it's a big deal. Let's lay out the issue and then the pros and the cons if you got time for that. That sound good?
Sure.
Cool.
Sure.
So the dual mining thing is initially Helium was obviously the only Lorwyn miner out there that was doing this whole deep in thing, that was doing the blockchain and meatspace piece. And as other projects saw that they could do the same thing, they could say, hey, people will buy my hardware for me and I can pay them in tokens, and they'll roll out a giant network. I'm just going to do the same thing Helium did. Lots of other companies started doing that. And it didn't matter at first, or maybe it did matter at first. Like some of the companies like, hey, you can mine our token as well on your Helium miner. And I think the MCC ruled that, this was the initial ruling, and it might have been a year ago, that you could dual mine as long as it didn't interfere with Helium. I think that was the ruling, and I probably should know because I'm sitting on the MCC. And that brings us up to almost today. A couple months ago, we saw at least two different networks, Crank with 2Ks and Things IX. Is there another one that said like, hey, we want to mine as well on Helium hotspots?
No, it's generally just those.
Those two. So those two, and I don't think I've talked to the Things IX guys about Things IX, but I've talked to the Crank guys. And if I remember right, they said like, hey, we're going to be like Helium, but better. And I think both companies basically said the same thing. Like, Helium made a lot of mistakes. We're going to do something that's way better. And if I'm understanding it right, and Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, both those guys are saying, or both those companies are saying, hey, we want to be able to allow you to provide our service, the 𝗓𝐸𝐸x service or the crank service, on a helium miner, and that's called dual mining. Am I getting most of that right, or are there anything
Yeah.
I'm getting wrong?
No, you got it dead right. I mean, what they refer to as multiplexing.
Multiplexing.
So
Okay. And what's
serving more than one network. So the packet forwarder doesn't just deliver to Helium; it delivers to the other ones at the same time.
okay? And then, if I'm also understanding that right, and now I'm on very kind of treacherous ground for me because I don't understand the technicalities of it, but I think that in broad strokes, and it goes back to our earlier 8-channel discussion, is let's say we get a year down the line and there's tons of sensors on all of these networks, on 𝗓𝐸𝐸x, on Crank, on Helium, on the next one, on 𝗓𝐸𝐸𝐸 7000 or whatever the fuck the next network is called. A channel can only handle so many, and from the perspective of Helium, they want to make sure that since the hotspots were deployed kind of on their name, that they get priority. But if I'm understanding it right, there's no way to enforce priority of a sensor packet coming through, or no? Am I getting that
I
wrong?
don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, generally in network terms, you can do you could preference it. You could preference it to always listen to this first, but yeah, there's a chance that the packet for the concentrators in use sending a 𝗓𝐸𝐸x packet when a Helium one needs to go out. So if you can preference that, then it could work. But yeah, it does cause problems. It would just cause problems if it rolled out and there was a ton of data right now.
Okay.
I think the deeper part of it is that in the EU we have duty cycle, and that is the job of the kind of the LNS to kind of say that it's complying with it, right? So if you put another network on that device, you could be breaking the duty cycle because no one source is tracking both. So technically, from a technical point of view, it's the idea that the packet forwarder can be in use, but also be overused for what's legal, and that there's some talk in the manufacturer's general room about what the law says about the device going out to one network. It was certified for one thing. To have two is a recertification and a totally different thing, and so yeah, it's just a bit of a muddled.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion on this, Neil?
For it. I think it's definitely a future problem. I've got to be honest. The very fact that 𝗓𝐸𝐸x exist is because the Foundation treated him badly.
Right. Yep.
We wouldn't have that competition if it had been a bit friendlier for him, and we actually delivered, which is sad. But from a host point of view, if that's the thing that saves the network, because we get so low in earnings that another network props up the earnings and keeps that Helium gateway on, that's a win for us, right?
Oh, that's an interesting way to think of it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe we dive into that a little bit. And then the Crank guys, have you talked to those guys? Have you dealt with them at all?
No, I haven't. From what I understand, they give free data transfer, so there's no way to make money on that network. They will never make money. They only make money from onboarding fees. So.
Okay. And maybe I'll get those guys into a Deep in Space so they can explain it, or Deep in State. Max is going to kill me for keeping saying space, but yeah, we'll do like a 5-minute thing with them. I mean, the opinion that I've got is that as long as Helium gets priority and it doesn't affect the working of the Helium network and it doesn't break the duty cycle law, I don't like it, but I also want people to have choice of what they do with their own hardware.
Yeah, it goes back to why I like this project so much. Honestly, read the Bitcoin white paper, and it talks about how everyone should be able to put a node in their house.
Yeah.
So the idea that we've no longer got that decentralized nature of it, but we happen to have all of these Raspberry Pis in people's houses, but they're kind of seen as Helium hotspots. But I like to think of them as nodes. Why does it matter if I put Node Red on there and do a load of sensor work, or does it matter if I put a VPN client on there, or so to the point that I would have liked to seen, and I understand the technical reasons why you have to be that way. This has to be disallowed, but I would have liked to seen some oversight to make sure that these services are safe, because people are going to do it anyway, and saying it's banned is stopping us from working with them to make sure it's safe and everyone in the Helium world is safe doing it.
Yeah,
You know?
it is a tricky thing because if I'm understanding
Yeah.
it right, I think this is the way it's been explained to me is that if Aaron at Nebra, and I think he was in general talking about this, he could just say like, hey, I don't care what you say, I'm just gonna update my firmware and allow everyone to do it. Like, as far as I know, there's
Mm,
no way for the foundation to stop that.
you couldn't. You could stop them onboarding new ones, but
Yeah,
you couldn't stop them from doing it for everyone.
yep.
And
And
it's
so
yeah.
it's tricky, right? He's got to decide what he wants to do and what he thinks is healthy for the network. I think the last time I paid attention to it, and again, I'm whatever 4 days behind on this, is that what was he saying? Like people should have the right to choose. It was something like that.
People still do, and I think that's the big thing that you got to realize is that just because the MCC says that you can't do it on a manufacturer level, won't stop end users from doing whatever the hell they want. You know?
Yeah, yep, yeah. Especially technical end users. Like you probably don't have a problem with it. For me, I'd just be like, well, fuck it. If it's not like a
Well,
button I can push, I'm not doing it.
well, it is though. That's the point. You know, with 𝗪𝗵𝘁 firmware, you just flash it to an SD card. You can add any other service you want on it. And just think of how many people out there are flashing 𝗪𝗁𝘁 firmware right now with PyCon hotspots, control
That's right.
hotspots with.
That's right.
So technically, I think the letter of the law is you can't come pre-installed with another network, but they could still add the functionality to add any private network, and people could just go in and do it through UX without having to do any command line stuff.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
it might just happen anyway, depending on what those companies want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's see. I mean, obviously, I sit on the MCC, so I got to be careful to say like, "Oh, these are my personal opinions and not, not reflective of the MCC." And you can also kind of take this to the bank because, like, you're thinking me, you're seeing me think this through kind of live. Um, but if we can't do anything about it, man, it's a tough thing to be like, well, to tell people to not do it. I think it's way more important to educate people on what they stand to gain and lose by
Mm,
flashing or by adding extra services and making sure that ultimately I have very rarely talked to someone so stupid they did something very clearly wrong. Right?
mm.
It's easy for us to be like, oh, all those people are bad and all those people are making dumb decisions. But when I talk to folks one on one, I have almost never talked to someone that is making a super dumb decision, like trying to be an idiot. Right. So yeah, I think as long as they have the information and they make their own educated decision, hopefully that's what America's all about and the free world. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, let's see. Let me catch up on the chat. Deeper jewel mining coming back. I don't know. So I didn't realize this, Neil, because I didn't pay that much attention to it. But it sounds like you can put anything you want on your hotspot if you got the technical capability. It's not like, I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind of
and
the thing.
that's what you got to be. That's what you really got to be careful about, right?
Right.
So just remember the basic security of a hotspot is there's an ECC key on a ECC chip, right?
Yep.
So anything can ask that ECC chip to sign it, but anything on that system could also ask that ECC chip to roll its keys. So if you install something on that hotspot, it could just check to see if there's an ECC chip and wipe it. That's
Mm,
what we need to be careful about. So
okay.
it could be a vampire attack to slowly creep into the network, get enough coverage, and then wipe everyone's helium keys. So it really is a real vampire attack. So that's
Ah,
what we
pretty
need to be careful
dangerous.
of. Yeah, yeah, it really is. It really
Much
could
more
be. Yeah.
dangerous than I thought. Okay. Huh.
Yeah, so we have to be really careful about what people are installing, and that's why I kind of always like the oversight of it. If we're working with them, they're less likely to be able to do that because there's an
Yeah.
official way to get their services on a hotspot. Kind of like an oversight committee that says, Bitcoin Lightning nodes make perfect sense for Helium hotspots. So let's write a store that allows you to install a Bitcoin Lightning node or a VPN node. Not just about the dual mining of LoRa networks, but the other services that we can get on. We can kind of like make sure that those services are not trying to screw over Helium hosts
Yeah.
whilst giving hotspot hosts more earnings.
Yeah, I mean let's dive into the earnings thing a little bit. I think from the beginning I remember Amir saying stuff very early on, when we were joining it, September, August of 2020. He's like, hey, eventually hotspots will make 1 HNT a month, and I think we're there or lower than that right now. I think
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the averages. And that was always like he was saying that at the beginning is it made sense to me that, hey, if you got in on this early, that was the time to scramble around and, like rent helicopters, put hotspots in mountains because it was worth it then. But in the long term, it was never going to be worth it or not never going to be worth it. It was never going to be super profitable to run a hotspot, right? So even if HNT goes back up to 100 and you're making one HNT a month, that's still $100 a month. Like, it's not bad. It's actually really good if the hotspot costs $200.
That's pretty good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But the likelihood of it going to 100 is maybe pretty low in the next year. Who knows? So, with that in mind, it makes me think, if you go to the fundamentals, kind of first principles of how much is the data worth that sensors are passing through a hotspot, right? How much is it worth when a car drives by in my street from my hotspot to take that packet that's giving you the GPS position or the nanotag or whatever it is? Shout out to trackpack.io. How much is that actually worth for that one packet? Like, it can't be worth that much. Like not what is Helium valuing it at, but like what is the actual worth of it? So kind of the what do they call this, fundamental or something investing, value investing. And I think that, like, there's not that much value in individual packets, and unless a hotspot is in a place where it's getting millions of packets, it will never be something you can pay your rent with, right? Or even pay more than like a bag of oranges at the grocery store. So I got to be really careful. Good.
No, you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, that's the way it's going to go. I mean, I don't see, anyone that's in this early with this amount of HNT left should still see more of an uptick from holding than they will from actual mining. That's the important thing to realize here. That it's not just what they're earning at that time. It's how strong they believe the project is and if they want to hold or not. That's going to make them the money. That's where we've all made our money. No one's made it from cashing out every day.
Right.
So I think it is. We will get into a world where the earnings might not be much, but it's about what you do with those earnings, staking, holding it for long periods of time, if you believe in the network.
Yep.
But we kind of realised that there's money to be made on top of the network.
Yeah.
Well, you could say the same thing about other networks existing on Pies. Pies are really overpowered. Yep. Putting a VPN client on there that tops those earnings up. Putting there's a world where there's edge node computing and things that could go on there. Filecoin storage, things like that, all on one hotspot. That could mean that Helium gateway is a node for your area for many different projects and has a bit more earning.
Yep. Okay, I can see that. I mean, I think, like you said, we got to be careful. And then Hack, I think you've got the link to come on if you want to talk about this. Had made this comment earlier, and I want to make sure we didn't skip past it. Everybody can read. Hopefully, you can read English. I think, like, this makes sense, but I don't see, and maybe I'm just missing it. There's not a way to enforce this, right?
No.
So it's like a tough thing. There is, with what is it, with great power comes great responsibility kind of thing. Is that you have the whole Spider-Man piece? Shout out to Max, who will understand that one. Is like, look, you got a hotspot, you bought the thing, you can do whatever you want with it, and you could probably get away with being a fucking shitbag. You probably can, and you can probably do it for a while, and a lot of cheaters have. But you got to think about what is the long-term implication and damage or advantage to the network of you doing whatever you want versus making sure you're kind of putting the health of the network first.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. I think there are technologies that could mean that this could work a lot better, but it just takes work. There is technically a hardware upgrade that can be done that introduces listen before talk.
Yep.
I'm not sure how that all figures in, but from my understanding, it wouldn't mean it would never clash. It always makes sure it listens before it talks, and it might not cause problems. So, but does it matter at this stage? I think I'm a bit on both camps, like I want people to have freedom, but at the same time, I want the network to exist. Like, this is the time I need the network to exist, to grow in a massive way. So it's tough.
And potentially this is a fairly fragile time, although I think you could say, like, all of these times and probably going forward for the next year, because the network is so young and the space is still so dynamic, we could potentially make a really bad wrong turn here. And so I think that's 100%. Why thank God I'm not the only person on the MCC, because clearly my decision making is a little faster and looser than the adults in the room. But it's important to have all these different perspectives and to say like, hey, this is what we think, this is what we recommend, and it goes back to individual responsibility. What are you going to do with your hotspot?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think no one in the MCC has a problem with other use cases, VPN or
Yep.
file storage or anything like that. So, it's not shutting out everything. It's just protecting from other networks that may cause Helium problems. So, it's justified totally.
Yep. Yeah. Let's see. I got a couple other things that are kind of basic stuff. Is there anything else, Neil? I'm not sure how much time
I
you need
have to shoot. I have to shoot. I'm afraid.
Okay.
You're right.
Cool. Yeah, I got this, dog. Thanks, dude.
All
Thanks for
right.
coming on and helping me with that.
No problem.
All right, buddy.
Speak soon.
Let's let me go back to solo. There we go. All right. Well, you get me until someone else comes on. Hack or Bobby or anyone who's gotten a link and come on before, you're welcome to come on again. But I'll hit a couple of questions that I see in the chat that it's always good to ask questions. There are no stupid questions. So let's hit a couple of these. Let's see, multiple hotspots in one place. I don't see that there's any benefit to that. So think about what a hotspot does. Is it provides coverage for sensors. This is Michael Bader's question. There's not a huge benefit to it. Now, there is a benefit if all you're doing is earning helium, because each individual hotspot doesn't impact the other hotspots on the same, say, tower. So if you have like a WISP tower, you got a big radio tower, and you've got 30 hotspots on there, that will probably earn more than if you spread those 30 hotspots around the city. And if all you are is running kind of selfishly to earn HNT, that's probably the best way to do it. But if you want to contribute to the health of the network, that is not the best way to do it. The best way to do it will be to spread those 30 hotspots around the city and provide coverage to the widest area possible. If we go way back in time to the wide, unique, provable, and useful, the WUPU acronym, that is the way to think of it. So make sure your coverage is wide, that it's unique, that it's not overlapping too much, that it's provable, that you're not, putting all these things in a closet, and that it's actually useful, that you're passing traffic around. And that goes, Michael, to your next question. Would you recommend locations that are more rural or big city? I think it's actually the wrong question to ask. The question to ask is, what you're looking for with the Helium hotspot is a location where there isn't coverage and there needs to be coverage. And that's a really hard thing to kind of prove, but it's a relatively easy thing to kind of be sensible about and say, okay, is there going to be a ton of tracking in this area? Is there going to be a ton of sensor usage in this area? Ideally, do I have clients in this area who are going to use Helium because you're providing the Helium service to them? That's the way to think of it. So it's not like a big city or a rural place is better or worse. Although typically right now, big cities are worse just because there's so many hotspots in them and the earnings are so low. Keenan, what's up? Good to see you here. Rock and roll, dog. And I see you got everybody saying hi to each other. Gregory talked about Jose at Rack doing the dual boot, boring VPN and Helium. Yeah, I'm not sure how deep he went either. Okay, Council of Many is very important, Nick. All right, yeah. You don't want just look. I kind of make fun of myself is that you don't want me running the MCC, but really you don't want one person running any of this. You want multiple people running this, and I think we're now coming to the point where the network is big enough and important enough and powerful enough that we're really making decisions here about how we govern this thing, right? And there are, on one side, it's like, hey, you want everybody to have a vote and everybody's vote matters. And on the other side is you have a dictator who's only one vote and their vote matters everything. And somewhere in the middle is fairly obviously where we want to be. We don't want everyone to have a vote and everyone's vote matters every single time, because not everyone understands every issue. And you end up with rule of the majority, which is not always a good thing. Is you want to protect people who are in the minority. You want to make sure that the decisions that we're making are for the health of the network, and they are made by people who are informed and taking the health of the network as their first thing. Now, there's not an easy way to determine that, right? My idea of health of the network might be a little bit different than someone else's, and my ignorance may inform that idea in negative ways. So we got to figure out how we're going to govern this, somewhere between kind of dictatorship and mob rule. But pretty obviously, we don't want either of those. So, and maybe that covers it enough to make sense. Let's see what else we got on here. File storage would be an amazing area to explore. Yep. Great gate holder. Chad Dawson loves the DNS. Helium is a perfect fit for it. I don't know what that is. Jerome Franklin Ryan. I'm working with a diving club to possibly make underwater diving sensors from TrackPack. It's in the early stages, but we're gonna get back to you. All right. Well, get back to Neil when he's online. So let's talk a little bit about this, because I know maybe a sliver about location underwater. And the one thing that you're going to have to do is it's really difficult to get constant location underwater. You can use, what is it, inertial navigation units. And if you have a couple $1,000,000 to spend, those are fantastic and super accurate underwater. But for most of us diving, we don't have a couple $1,000,000 to spend to set up that network and the rest of it. And so I'm guessing, and this is a total guess here, is that you're probably having something with a buoy on the surface and the track pack is on the buoy on the surface. And then that is going to do really well because that's is transmitting radio waves over water, and water is pretty easy for propagation. So yeah. And Jerome, if you got anything else, I'll keep reading the notes and going through this. This is kind of your and my time as a group to go through a couple of these conversations. So Nick, how confident are you? This is Chad Dawson / Bobby. For those of you that don't know, that we got Chad and Bobby have multiple names. What's the other one? Goalkeeper. I think all three of those are the same guy. How confident are you that the salon transition will happen on 4/17? I think it's the 18th, so I'm not confident at all it'll happen on the 17th. But yeah, I think great gate holder. I don't know, 95%. I don't know, with this stuff, like we've seen so many of these big transitions get pushed back for what I think are really good reasons, that it is far more important to think about what you can do, like what is within your ability to affect and do. And that is the thing to focus on and not so much worry about the date. So if it's the 18th of April or the 18th of June or the 14th of August, it doesn't really matter to me as long as when it goes through, it works. And, none of the time between now and then is wasted on transitioning. So let's see. Jay, I'll get to yours. Great gate holder. Yeah, you're welcome for addressing the question. Any antenna recommendations, Michael Baders? Yeah, you've got a bunch of options out there on antennas. I know Max over at People Antenna has a warehouse full of them, and he's still selling them. There are cheaper antennas that do the similar things. And really, at this point, if like it used to be, actually, I don't think it ever made a huge difference what antenna you used. So just get something that works and is relatively cheap, and that will be good enough. If you want super high end, like kind of best quality out there, MP antenna is still making, I think, the best quality as far as multipolarized antenna. You'll get RF geeks arguing about that all day, but I've used those. I've tested those a bunch, and those work really well. So if you want super high quality, but $150, $170 an antenna, great, get the MP. If you don't give a shit, what's the other one that's not the People? It's the same thing. It's the Alpha or something, whatever it is. Like the antenna doesn't matter that much. So not really any antenna recommendations. Eloquent defense at the filibuster. Right on, Jay. Is that a compliment? Let's see. Subsonic modems. Travis, as usual, I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm sure it's right. So if you want to jump into that. All right. And then Keenan, we're coming back to this dual mining thing, which I thought we would come back to. I think there's a big difference between dual mining from an individual who changes their hotspot firmware versus coming directly from a manufacturer. Yeah, 100% there is. And it's an interesting thing, right? Because there's nothing that I think we talked about this earlier. There's nothing the MCC or the foundation can do to stop an individual from doing it. And the only thing we as a community, I don't want to speak for the MCC, but if we just look at this from the perspective of the healing community, the only thing we could do is to say, hey, you can't make any more hotspots. But certainly a manufacturer could issue out a firmware update, if I'm understanding that right and using the correct terminology. And yeah, allow anyone to dual mine. So you got to decide if you want to support that kind of thing, and if that is in the best interest of the network. And as hopefully you saw from both Neil and I's discussion, is it's not like a very clear answer where it's yes or no. Like we're not discussing human slavery and whether or not that's good or bad. We're discussing something that's pretty nuanced, and yeah, it will probably be a thorny issue going forward. We've got to make a good adult decision for the network. Let's see. DNS, thank you. Great gate holder, decentralized network storage. Cool. Vision grid. Excited for the Solana transition. Do you have any idea how the new Explorer would look like? I've seen a preview of it, and the only thing I remember is that it was in light mode and it looked cool. I don't spend a ton of time on Explorer, so I don't know that'll make a huge difference to me. But I mean, it looks super cool. All the stuff that I've ever seen Helium do has been really beautiful and really well thought out. So I think that's as close to a guarantee as I'll get. And then we just had Donna August come on the Gristle crew on Tuesday, right? And she showed us the Helium Health app, which is for hotspot health. And what was it? Oh, fuck, Donna, I'm sorry. I'm gonna forget the name of the app. But it was a really cool way to get on your watch what's going on with all of your hotspots. And Jay, if you have that link, would you drop it in the chat? Because I know you saw it. It wasn't it wasn't appropriate for you, but I know you were there and saw that link, and we have it somewhere. But that was a cool thing to do, and that's like a way to see Explorer on your phone is where I was going with that vision grid. Let's see. Yeah, or Jerome Franklin Rhyme. Yep. So the idea of an antenna on a buoy or a packet forward on the boat by the divers. Yep. I think that's a super good thing. Let's see. Keenan, it's the 18th. Thank you. Thank you for backing me on that. Chad McGill's rule DIY. Rack 5.8 is my fave. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, and you guys feel free to like shill or drop your favorite antenna in the comments. I don't think they matter that much, but yeah, that's it. I see you guys are banging away on the chat while I'm just talking to the screen here. What if someone deployed a network of floating nodes and released 1,000 on the water like a balloon from China? I guess, Michael, it depends. Like, what's the goal, right? As far as, let's see. So if let's say you had 1,000 nodes and you had 1,000 floats and you wanted to run an experiment and you wanted to drop them in the middle of the ocean and hope they don't end up in the Pacific trash pile. As long as they're only talking to each other, wherever you assert them on the map is where they will appear to be. As soon as they start talking to other hotspots that are asserted in other locations, it'll start to become more and more apparent that they're not where they're supposed to be or not where they're asserted to be. And eventually they get booted off the network in an ideal world. So if you're doing it to earn HNT, probably not the greatest idea and a waste of money, but maybe a fun experiment. If you're doing it to provide coverage, it's a different thing. And I know that I've thought a bunch about putting a helium hotspot on a boat. I used to work on these big container ships, doing the run around the Arabian Peninsula. And it always kind of, I thought, not at the time because I didn't know about helium, but like, oh, that'd be pretty cool to have a hotspot up on the bridge, keeping track of all the different stuff in the different containers. I think that's reasonable, and we'll see that and you can do that with data-only hotspots right now. So yeah, depends on what your goals are. Jay, that was a compliment. Oh, cool, thank you. Thank you. Let's see, if I just want to add a dashboard onto the gateway. Oh shit, you guys are going faster than I can talk. Travis's thing, 𝗚𝗶𝘶. Maybe I should bring these up as I'm talking about them so that you guys can see the same thing I'm seeing. What if I just want to add a dashboard onto the gateway and executable program? I have no idea what that means, Travis. Yeah, you're gonna have to translate that into English so I can understand. I'm sure it's a reasonable idea. Okay, Siegfried and Great Gateholder are going back and forth. Cool. All right. Okay. Let's see, Bobby's thing. Any chance we can have Elmo back in the show? Yeah, I can ask him. I haven't seen him. He kind of goes in and out of helium. So, but yeah, I can certainly ask him to come back on and talk about mobile stuff if that's interesting to you guys. Yeah, we're moving away from banking HNT. I mean, here's the thing, Travis. Thank you for saying something I can understand. I don't know what to do with my HNT. Right, I've got a pile of it. About the only thing I can think to do with it is stake for IoT. But I don't know. It's not like, I think, here's the thing that I'm really careful of is I think all of these different like DeFi, liquidity, swaps, trading protocol, bridges between, I think that is all like numbers fuckery and adds no value to the system. And so I'm really careful of kind of getting sucked into any of that stuff because A, because I got sucked into it before and lost a bunch, and B, because it's fundamentally stupid. To me, like it fundamentally doesn't add any value to a network to be like throwing, doing the shell game, as far as I can tell from my simple-minded financial understanding of the universe. So, let's see. So, but I don't know what to do with it. Do you have an idea what you bought a hat with it? Yeah, I think we're going to see some interesting stuff in other projects. I don't know if they've announced it yet, where you can start to use their tokens to buy their miners, and that may have already been announced by a couple of projects, but there's one in particular I know is coming out with that if they haven't come out with it already. So yeah, I don't know what to do with HNT other than I'm going to sit and hold it. In fact, the thing that I'm doing that I saw Daniel Spiller over at Hotspotty asked the other day on Twitter, and we were kind of laughing, or I was laughing about it, is like, what do we do with the validator? Because I got half a validator that I split with another guy. Is I don't know what to do with that thing. And I've looked into it. I haven't had the time. I've been so busy kind of hammering tongs on sensors and then, taking off doing other things. And I've got a fucking radical project that is not yet public, but I'm so stoked on it. That I haven't paid attention to what to do with validators. So I've no idea what to do with mine. Right now, I'm just going to be the what is it, the frog in the boiling pot of water, and I'm going to do nothing and just see what happens. And I think it's going to work out better for me than it did for the frog. But yeah, if any of you have advice or ideas and you feel like you're well informed, drop them in the chat, or I'd have you on the show and we can talk about what should you do with your validator before the 18th. I would love to know what we can do with mine. Let's see, Keenan, you'll be able to do a lot more with HNT soon. Cool, super cool. I'm psyched to see that, and maybe we have you on, Keenan, and you can come talk about that. And if you want to, I think you've got a link to this show somewhere in your Discord. So come on, talk about it now. Let's see. Michael Bader's, any thought of deployment of an open source AI on such a network? I haven't thought of anything like that. I'll tell you this. So, Dad and I just had, 3 days of driving 8-hour days all over the American Southwest. So plenty of time to talk. And my takeaway from that, as far as AI goes, and this is only semi-related, is that I don't see any, this is fairly doomsday stuff, I don't see any reasonable outcome where an AI becomes, whatever you want to call it, sentient or understanding what's going on, and doesn't see humanity as a bunch of vile cockroaches that are a real problem for the planet and goes about wiping us out as fast as it can. Yeah, I don't see anything. Sorry, I'm getting dinged on text. I want to make sure I wasn't saying anything inappropriate. Yeah, I think AI is going to be a giant problem. It's not going to stop me from using it and experimenting with it, because I could be wrong. God knows I've been wrong on plenty of other stuff. And that was another thing that came up for me on this trip, was like, hey, what if I'm wrong about my fundamental understanding of the universe? And that is everything from what if I'm wrong about my diet. I believe that paleo is a great diet and works really well for me, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a vegetarian is better. To, what if I'm wrong about understanding these hotspots? What if I'm wrong about helium? I think there's probably a fair amount of value in taking a day a quarter or a day a week or whatever your frequency is, and just really asking yourself, like, what if you're wrong, and how would you know that you're wrong about things that you believe are fundamentally true that drive all of your other decisions? So yeah, I've got a lot of what if I'm wrongs out there. Let's see. Any thoughts? So we hit that one. We've got boats out there in San Diego. We do have boats here in San Diego. Yes, that is true. That is absolutely true. Rad project. Let's see. Oh, Helium smartwatch. That's the one. Thank you, Jay. Helium smartwatch is the app from Donna August. Man, she was sharp. I really want to have her come on State of the Network if she's got time, if we can get her on here and do a demo. But I thought it was super cool. Right now, it's super cool if you have a smaller fleet, because you have to add them one at a time to your watch, but you could just sit there and take your watch and be like, oh, show me my favorite hotspot, or show me what's going on with this one, or show me what's going on with that one. Yeah. Let's see, Keenan, you're shy. So I'm like behind by whatever, 30 seconds to a minute on all these comments. This is when I was asking Keenan to coming on. You can't be shy and be a community manager. So come on, dog. It is funny to me to see people being shy, because I talk to all you guys all the time, and then folks get on and you stare into the camera, and it just takes a little while to get used to, but the more you do it, the better you get. Let's see. So here's something that is really cool that I always wanted to happen with all of these shows, is to connect you guys outside of this show, outside of kind of my little world, and make sure that in the big picture, the helium ecosystem and really the system of the planet of humanity is able to work with each other. And if I can act as a connecting good force, I count that as a giant win. So Michael talked to 𝗚𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗀. He's T-Teague on the Discord. He's certainly in the Helium Discord. He's a Helium Foundation employee. And also he's in the Gristle King Discord. So bring on Doomsday. I'll agree with you on this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, Sierra, on the Bring on Doomsday stuff, but certainly dogs are the best we can hope for. Yeah. As my good friend Charlie Grove said, dogs are better than us in every way. Okay, now we're on the AI thing. Sorry, I'm behind here on the chat stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is the other thing, Keenan, is everyone thinks they look like garbage. It's like, look. Someone told me I look like I came out of a dumpster the other day. You just got to be able to brush that shit off and be like, yeah, go fuck yourself. You can start your own YouTube show if you want it. But really, it's about getting out there. And I think that is the most important thing for all of these projects to do, is to have a continual, or at least a reliable presence on the internet and talking human to human. And it doesn't matter what you look like. If you got a fucking eye booger, if you didn't shave, or you didn't comb your hair perfectly, or you didn't put your makeup on, whatever it is. And I don't comb my hair or put makeup on to be totally transparent, in case that is not evident. It doesn't matter. What matters is getting out there and letting people know that your project exists, that you're working on it and that you're making improvements on it. And that is the exciting thing. This will be a total plug here. Is the Deep in State show is a show that Max Gold and I have started up. We filmed the first stuff last week right before I took off on that road trip. And we did episodes. I think we had Andy from Demo on. We had a buy from Helium on. Oh my God, how am I going to blank on the last one? We're going to talk to 𝗓𝗪𝘁 and didn't have them on. Good God, this is embarrassing. Well, this shows you just can't think under pressure under the camera. There's one more that came on that I'm psyched on that I'm sorry I'm forgetting it right now in the moment. But the intent there is to say, look, every week we want to have a platform for all of these projects in the deep in space. Really, for me, kind of no matter what I think of the project, I want them to have a platform to come on and talk to folks and get to explain themselves and their updates, and not so much a deep dive into the projects. I think Max and I are talking about this a bunch, but I think we should charge for deep dive shows. Max thinks we should just put it out there and share it with folks, but because as a business, we've got to pay the mortgage. But I want to make sure that all of these different deep in projects, because this is such an important time to get these out there. This is kind of the inflection point in history for this blockchain and meat space intersection to really take off and be a boon to humanity. Is that they should have a platform. They should be able to come out and talk to everybody in the space and say, here's our updates, here's what's going on, here's the deal. I'm gonna look on my calendar and find out who that last one was, because that's gonna bug me that I didn't give them the respect they needed to. Oh, of course, Mike Horton. How can I forget you? Mike Horton at GeoNet came on and talked to us. Good God, GeoNet's a client. I'm the worst whatever. Is all of these different projects get to come on and talk about what they're doing. And I think that's really important to give them all a platform and make sure that they get to put the word out there. So let's see, Siegfried, going back to your question about the hotspot app. I'll put that back up here if I can find it, Jay. You did me a big favor putting it on there, and then I almost lost it. There it is. Helium smartwatch. So look for Helium, is a Helium Dash smartwatch, and it's like a funky little logo. It looks like if you've ever seen the periodic table, it looks like that HE, if I remember right, for Helium. You can put that on your app, and it allows you to see what's going on with a hotspot, allows you to see what the earnings are, the 30-day earnings, the 7 earnings. I don't think you can see your fleet earnings yet, but I know that Donna had said, and God, she was fucking sensible. She had said, look, we are way open to feedback from customers. And she had this really good thing. I think this kind of made this was a ton of value for the Gristle crew, was just hearing the way she approached solving problems. Is you just take this, what'd she say? You take this slice of a giant landscape and you just run across that slice and solve the problem across that slice. And then you iterate from there. And once you have that kind of one foothold in solving a problem for a landscape, then you can iterate out into different branches and make the product better and better. But that's how you started off. And she just had a really very clear way of thinking and understanding what was going on. So super cool. Let's see. I'm jumping around in the chat here. Carnivore never looked back. I mean, this is the thing, great gate holder, is you got to be really fucking careful of never looking back. I can't say that I'm the be all end all, but I'll say I've been doing paleo since fairly strictly since 2009. And the two things that I've learned about any diet, if we go back to like what if I'm wrong thing, is the only things that are true about any diet, whether it's paleo or vegan or gluten-free or Atkins or zone or whatever the fuck you want to look at, or carnivore or supervore or pescivore, is number one, if the diet is, these are two things that have to be true for a diet to work for you. How should I do my number ones? We'll do it this way. Number one, a diet has to be low in sugar, and even that can be broken. There are fruitarians who seem to do pretty well. And number two, you have to believe that it works. And if those two things are true, your diet is probably pretty good for you. I may be wrong on that, but that is the conclusion I've come to after 10 plus years of running a food business, which is paleotreats.com. So I think we just gotta be really careful and say like, hey, carnivore never looking back, and not to pick on you, because I've been the same way. It's like, I'm paleo, I'm never gonna change. And then after driving around with Dad, and he doesn't eat paleo, he eats a vegetarian diet, and he has, what is it, 𝗚𝗶𝘁 he calls it, 𝗚𝗶𝘁? Oranges, prunes, apples, and raisins every morning. From the paleo perspective, that's way too much fruit, but appears to be working for him. He's super happy with it, and he had a bunch of good reasons as far as gut health is why that works, which is way off the course of what's going on with Helium. But I think the important part is this what if I'm wrong thing. Okay, Ed, let's put this thing on there. I'm in early planning for a Minnesota meetup. Same kind of time frame, late spring, early summer, grill, booze, sensors, and swag. So Ed is on all the Discords that I know about. You can find him if you're in Minnesota. Go dig him up and do the cool meetup with him. So let's see. What is this? Keenan got kicked out of Canada, so you got to come here. I mean, Keenan is welcome in San Diego anytime. I will open this town for you. You guys are all catching up on the chat, or you're way ahead of me with on the chat. Anyone in Florida, Miami? Yeah, Michael, there's a ton of folks in Florida. In fact, wasn't Miami where we had the Helium mobile thing pretty recently? Who's the Helium guy there? Scott Kaplan, I think, is in Miami. So there's a presence from Nova or Helium Foundation. Okay. I'm going to skip over some of these chats. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, that brings us up to 10 o'clock. So that's the show. Thanks a ton for coming on. Like, subscribe, all those things. Appreciate you guys coming on here. Super good to get to catch up with you. Thanks to Neil for coming on and explaining a bunch of that stuff with the 3 big pieces of the day, which is Amazon Sidewalk, dual mining, and Aussie rollbacks. If you came in late and you want to see that, you're going to have to watch this afterwards, but appreciate you guys coming on. And I am, oh, hang on. We got one more thing. All hosts one in Detroit. We could do a tour of the Midwest. Okay, cool. So it sounds like you guys were talking in the chat and I missed it, that everyone is kind of doing shout outs from where they're from. And maybe we could do a state of the network next week and we just talk about all the different meetups that are coming up. That might be a cool thing to host. Either maybe Keenan, if you want to do something in the Helium Discord channel and we do like a meetup calendar, that might be pretty cool. Or I can certainly do one in the 𝗪𝗁𝐾 Discord and we can do a meetup calendar. That might be cool as well. So, but with that, we're 1 minute over time. Ripping, good to see you guys. I will see you next week or on the Discord. Rock and roll. I am out of here.